पंजाबी देखते हुए सारे दर्शकों को मेरे वालों प्यार भरी सत श्री अकाल। तुहाडा स्वागत प्रोग्राम अज दा मुद्दा दे विच। जिस तरह तुहानूं पता है साडी टीम यूबा सिटी कैलीफोर्निया दे विच इस पिछले वीकेंड महान नगर कीर्तन यूबा सिटी कवर करने लई पहुंची हुई है। जदों असीं इत्थे आने आ ऑफ कोर्स इस कैलीफोर्निया नॉर्दर्न कैलीफोर्निया दी संगत दी कम्यूनिटी दे विच इन्नी हैरीटेज इन्नी हिस्टरी हैगी कि सिखां लई यह एक यूनीक अपॉर्चुनिटी बनती है कि पोलिटिकल डिस्कशनस कीतियां जान। खास करके कैलीफोर्निया दे विच जिथे सिख इन्ने पोलिटिकली एक्टिव हैगे इत्थे सानू हमेशा अपॉर्चुनिटी सानू भी मौके मिलते हैं कि इत्थे दी लोकल कम्यूनिटी दे नाल रल के डिस्कशनस कीतियां जान कि वड्डे मसले हैगे जो कि सिख अते पंजाबी कम्यूनिटी नू कैलीफोर्निया दे विच अफेक्ट करते हैं। असीं तुहाडे नाल लगातार पिछले कुछ समय तो एक बिल बारे कैलीफोर्निया दे विच जानकारी शेयर करते आ रहे हैं, स्टेट बिल 403। इस बिल दे विच कास्ट डिस्क्रिमिनेशन के खिलाफ एक स्पैशल तुसीं कह लो प्रोविजन पेश की गई सी। इस बिल नू कैलीफोर्निया दी स्टेट असैंबली अते सैनेट दे विच ओवरवैलमिंगली अप्रूव किया गया। बट रीसेंटली असीं तुहानूं दस्सिआ कि किस तरह जदों यह बिल गवर्नर गैविन न्यूसम की डैस्क ते पहुंचिया उन्होंने इस बिल नू वीटो करता, यह कहते हुए कि कास्ट डिस्क्रिमिनेशन के खिलाफ ऑलरेडी कैलीफोर्निया दे विच प्रोटैक्शनस हैगियां। अज मैं तुहाडे नाल एक इहो जिहा सैमीनार अते पैनल डिस्कशन शेयर करन जा रही हाँ जिहदे विच गवर्नर गैविन न्यूसम दी इस रीसेंट वीटो नूं लैके अते जेंडर रेस कास्ट इक्वालिटी नूं लैके डिस्कशनस कीतियां गईयां राइट हियर इन यूबा सिटी। यह पैनल ऑर्गेनाइज किया गया सी ऑफ कोर्स बाय डॉक्टर जसबीर कंग जिन्होंने सिख कम्यूनिटी सेंटर यूबा सिटी दे विच एक बहुत वड्डी गैदरिंग दे विच एक पैनल डिस्कशन रखी जिहदे विच ना कि सिर्फ ओह सिੱਖੀ सिद्धांत जो कि सानू बराबरी बारे दसदे उन्हां बारे डिस्कशनस कीतियां गईयां। डॉक्टर BR अंबेडकर दी की जगह है ना कि सिर्फ सिख इतिहास दे विच बट मोर इंपोर्टेंटली इंडियन हिस्टरी दे विच एंड ऑल्सो SB 403 दे इस गवर्नर गैविन न्यूसम दी वीटो तो बाद की अगले कदम यह कोलिशन चुक रही है इस मुद्दे नू अगे वधान लई कि यह एक हार या एक जित हैगी इस संघर्ष दे विच। इहदे बारे असी कुछ डिस्कशनस सुनांगे। जिस तरह तुहानूं दस्सिआ एक स्पैशल सैमीनार रखा गया, उस सैमीनार दे विच की कुछ डिस्कस किया गया, किन्हां ने सैमीनार नू ऑर्गेनाइज किया गया एंड की मेन पॉइंट सीगे उन्हां दे बारे जानकारी तुसीं वेख सकदे हो। ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੁਣ जुड़े हैं डॉक्टर जसबीर सिंह कंग जी। डॉक्टर कंग ने यह सैमीनार ऑर्गेनाइज किया एट द सिख कम्यूनिटी सेंटर इन यूबा सिटी जिथे वक्-वक् इहो जे प्रोग्राम्स डिस्कशनस अते सैमीनार्स रखे जाते कम्यूनिटी अते सिविल राइट्स नू मद्देनज़र रखते हुए सोशल इशूज़ नू डिस्कस करने लई। डॉक्टर कंग SB 403 नू लैके असी लगातार कवरेज कर रहे हैं। You yourself have been a instrumental member of this coalition to get this bill passed through. Overwhelming support in the Senate and the Assembly. This bill gets vetoed when it reaches Governor Gavin Newsom's desk. आने वाले समय दे विच असी लोकां नूं इस सैमीनार दे नज़ारे भी दिखावें कि डिस्कशनस कीतियां गईयां अते की जो कुछ प्रोमिनेंट स्पीकर सी की इन्हां दी सोच हैगी इन मसलियां नूं लैके। But I would love to hear from you a high-level overview of everything that was discussed today. ਕੀ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਇਸ ਸੈਮੀਨਾਰ ਤੋਂ ਜੋ ਵੱਖ-ਵੱਖ ਆਵਾਜ਼ਾਂ ਉੱਠੀਆਂ ਕੀ ਵੱਡਾ ਮੈਸੇਜ ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਸਿੱਖ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਲਈ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਸ ਸੈਮੀਨਾਰ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ?
ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੇਖਣ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਮੇਰੀ ਪਿਆਰ ਭਰੀ ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ। ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਵੱਡੇ ਲੈਵਲ ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਕਹਾਂਗਾ ਵੀ ਇਸ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਟਰਗਲ ਸੀਗੀ ਜੋ ਬਿੱਲ ਦੀ ਇੱਕ ਤਾਂ ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਡੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ 'ਚ ਏਕਤਾ ਆਈ ਆ। ਸਾਡੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਡਿਫਰੈਂਟ ਸੈਗਮੈਂਟਸ ਵੰਡੀ ਪਈ ਆ। ਇਸ ਬਿੱਲ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਦੋਂ ਪਾਰਟੀਸਪੇਸ਼ਨ ਹੋਈ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦੀ ਸੋ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਡਿਫਰੈਂਟ ਸੈਗਮੈਂਟਸ ਨੇ ਦੇ ਕੇਮ ਔਨ ਵਨ ਪਲੇਟਫਾਰਮ। ਦੂਜਾ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇੱਥੇ ਦੇ ਪੋਲੀਟੀਕਲ ਸਿਸਟਮ ਵੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਸੈਸ ਕੀ ਆ। ਦੇਖੋ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਧੀਆ ਕੰਟਰੀ ਆ ਪਰ ਜੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਰਾਹ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਤਾ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪਾਰਟੀਸਪੇਟ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਕਰਨਾ ਫਿਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਹੱਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ महफूज नहीं कर सकते। सो मेरे ख्याल काफ़ी सिक्ख्या लर्निंग आई साड़ी कम्यूनिटी च भी सिस्टम नूं किद्दां विच पार्टिसिपेट या यूटिलाइज़ करना है। तीजी गल जिहड़ा मुद्दा सी बराबरता दा या कास्ट दा इशू ये तो सारे मानते हैं भी साडे धर्म दे विच जो साडे धर्म दी फिलॉसफी है उहदे विच बराबरता दा मैसेज है, कोई जात पात दी गल नहीं। समाजिक तौर पर प्रॉब्लम हैगी आ ਕਿ ਉਨੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਲੈਵਲ ਤੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਆ ਜਿੰਨੀ ਸਾਊਥ ਏਸ਼ੀਅਨ ਹੋਰ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ 'ਚ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ, ਪਰ ਇਹਦਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਆ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਠੀਕ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਨਾ। ਸੋ ਉਹ ਮੈਂ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਵੀ ਸਾਰੇ ਫੀਲ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਕਾਸਟ ਆਇਡੈਂਟੀਟੀਜ਼ ਤੋਂ ਉੱਤੇ ਉੱਠ ਕੇ ਐਜ਼ ਅ ਸਿੱਖ ਅਮੈਰੀਕਨ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਮਤਲਬ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਸਾਂਝ ਪਾਉਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਆ। ਲਾਸਟਲੀ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕਾਸਟ ਇਸ਼ੂ ਵੀ ਆ, ਭਾਵੇਂ ਉਹ ਗਵਰਨਰ ਨੇ ਵੀਟੋ ਕਰਤਾ ਵਾਟ ਐਵਰ ਰੀਜ਼ਨਸ, ਮਤਲਬ ਬਾਕੀ ਬੁਲਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਦੱਸੇ ਨੇ, ਪਰ ਐਟਲੀਸਟ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਲੀਗਲ ਵਰਲਡ ਆ ਜਾਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਦੇ ਜੱਜਿਸ ਨੇ ਜਾਂ ਵਕੀਲ ਨੇ ਜਾਂ ਕਾਰਪੋਰੇਟ ਵਰਲਡ ਆ, ਕਾਰਪੋਰੇਟ ਵਰਲਡ ਨੇ ਆਲਰੇਡੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਓਰੀਐਂਟੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੇਣੀ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕਰਤੀ। ਸੋ ਮੈਂ ਕਹਾਂਗਾ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਸਾਡੀ ਜਿੱਤ ਹੋਈ ਆ, ਨਾਟ ਐਗਜ਼ੈਕਟਲੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਸੀ, ਪਰ ਇਹ 'ਚ ਚੰਗਾ ਨਤੀਜੇ ਨਿਕਲੇ ਨੇ। ਅਤੇ ਲਾਸਟ ਪੁਆਇੰਟ ਇਹ ਹੈਗਾ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਯੰਗ ਜਨਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਅਹਿਸਾਸ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਵੀ ਜੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਸ ਕੰਟਰੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਪਣੀਆਂ ਜੜ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਹੋਰ ਮਜ਼ਬੂਤ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇੱਥੇ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਿਸਟਮ ਹੈ, ਪੋਲੀਟੀਕਲ ਸਿਸਟਮ, ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਾਰਟੀਸਪੇਟ ਕਰਨਾ। ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਪਾਰਟੀ 'ਚ ਕਰੋ, ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਰੋ, ਜਿੰਨੀ ਦੇਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਿਸਟਮ 'ਚ ਪਾਰਟੀਸਪੇਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ, ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਰਾਈਟਸ, ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਪਹਿਚਾਣ ਮਹਿਫੂਜ਼ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀ। ਕੈਨੇਡਾ 'ਚ ਆਈ ਥਿੰਕ ਆਪਣੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਹੈਜ਼ ਡਨ ਕੁਆਇਟ ਵੈਲ, ਅਤੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਵੀ ਉਹਦੀ ਸ਼ੁਰੂਆਤ ਹੋ ਗਈ ਆ।
ਡਾਕਟਰ ਕੰਗ, ਇਹ ਤਾਂ ਸੰਘਰਸ਼ ਕੈਲੀਫੋਰਨੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲੜਿਆ ਗਿਆ, ਬਟ ਨੋ ਡਾਊਟ ਇਸ ਕੈਲੀਫੋਰਨੀਆ ਦੀ ਬੈਟਲ ਤੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਿੱਖ ਕੇ ਲੈਸਨ ਹੋਰ ਸਟੇਟਸ, ਹੋਰ ਸਿਟੀਜ਼ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਜ਼ਮਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਅਗਰ ਵਨਸ ਅਗੇਨ ਹਾਈ ਲੈਵਲ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੋਈ ਐਡਵਾਈਸ, ਕੋਈ ਸੁਝਾਅ ਦੇਣੇ ਹੋਣ ਸਾਡੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ, ਕੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਹਿ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਕਿ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਹੋਰ ਸਟੇਟਸ, ਹੋਰ ਸ਼ਹਿਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਜੁਰਿਸਡਿਕਸ਼ਨਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀ ਮੂਵਮੈਂਟ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਕ ਆਫ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਏ?
ਮੈਂ ਕਹਾਂਗਾ ਜੀ, ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਨਾ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਨਾ ਵੀ ਘਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਤਫਾਕ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ, ਬਾਹਰਲਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਤਾਂ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਫੇਰ ਹੀ ਦੱਸਾਂਗੇ। ਸੋ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਡਾਇਲਾਗ ਸੀਗਾ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਰਾਦਰੀਆਂ ਨੇ, ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਰਵਿਦਾਸੀਆ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ 'ਤੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਜੱਟ ਬਰਾਦਰੀ ਹੈ ਜੀ, ਇਹ ਪਾਪਾ ਬਰਾਦਰੀ ਹੈ ਜੀ, ਫਲਾਣੀ ਬਰਾਦਰੀ ਹੈ, ਵਿਚ ਇਜ਼ ਵੈਰੀ ਸੁਪਰਫਿਸ਼ੀਅਲ। ਉਹ ਸਾਡਾ ਇੰਟਰਨਲ ਡਾਇਲਾਗ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਹੈਗਾ ਵੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਬਾਉਂਡਰੀਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਖ਼ਤਮ ਕਰਨਾ ਪਏਗਾ। ਅਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੈਕਸਟ ਜਨਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਬੱਚੀਆਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਤਾਂ ਮੰਨਣੀਆਂ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ, ਵਿਆਹ ਵੀ ਹੋਣਗੇ। ਸੋ ਇਹ ਸ਼ੁਰੂਆਤ ਹੋ ਗਈ ਆ, ਅਤੇ ਵੀ ਨੀਡ ਟੂ ਕੈਰੀ ਔਨ ਦਿਸ ਡਾਇਲਾਗ ਵੀ ਹਾਊ ਵੀ ਗੋਇੰ ਟੂ ਮੇਕ ਇਨਕਲੂਸਿਵ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ। ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇੱਕ ਫਾਲਸ ਪ੍ਰਾਈਡ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਾਸਟ ਬੇਸ ਸਾਡੇ ਗਾਣਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਸਾਡੇ ਕਲਚਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਵੀ ਨੀਡ ਟੂ ਗੈਟ ਰਿਡ ਆਫ ਇਟ। ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੱਸੋ ਵੀ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੋਈ ਗਾਣਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਕਾਸਟ ਬੇਸਡ ਪ੍ਰਾਈਡ ਦਾ ਲਗਾ ਰਹੇ ਆ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਬਾਕੀ ਲੋਕ ਬੈਠੇ ਆ ਉਹ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਮਹਿਸੂਸ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋਣਗੇ? ਸੋ ਦਿਸ ਇਜ਼ ਵੈਰੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਦਾ ਕੋਰ ਕਨਸੈਪਟ ਹੈ, ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਆਪਾਂ ਈਗੋ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਹਉਮੈ ਆ ਵੀ ਮੈਂ ਵਧੀਆ, ਦੈਟ ਨੀਡਸ ਟੂ ਗੋ ਅਵੇ। ਸਾਰੇ ਹੀ ਵਧੀਆ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ। ਜਦ ਸਾਡੇ ਜੇ ਫੀਲਿੰਗ ਆ ਗਈ ਤੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਘਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਤਫਾਕ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ, ਬਾਹਰ ਵੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਜਿੱਤ ਹੋਏਗੀ।
What are the internal conversations at seminars like this? What are the internal conversations you're having in your community? So ਜਿਹੜੀ ਪਿਛਲੇ 10-20 ਸਾਲ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਕਾਰੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ we've been talking about Halimi Raj, we've been talking about Begumpura, we've been talking about Gyani Dit Singh, we celebrate Bhai Kair Singh, Gurbian Singh, we've worked in the Rio Linda Gurdwara, we've worked with the Gurdwaras on Cherry in Fresno. So it's really been, have you kind of, Ojri Beach, have you kind of watered it within the groups that you're actually working in? And so for the youth, the first time they heard about SB43, actually to be honest, maybe before even Amar and Tanmoria had even our conversation, before the coalition grew, when we just knew it was a placeholder bill, everybody was on board. There was no question. ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਚੀਜ਼ ਅਸੀਂ ਖਤਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਨਾ, ਖਾਲਸਾ ਦੀ ਮਤਲਬ ਮਕਸਦ ਕੀ ਸੀ, and these were all the conversations within right away. So what was going to be our position was absolutely going to be, as Jesse Gore shared it, just as Guru Nanak said, that Nietzsche and the Nizjat, that's where I'm going to be most connected. In terms of the work that we've been doing, this is a powerful mauka hai matlab California de vich. Pavi sadi band di matlab jive Manpreet Kaur, Jasmeet Kaur bands, just sadi Veer Karam bands. This is a new opportunity jehdi assi duniya de vich kadi maybe outside of Canada, jithe at least California, US de vich assi kadi pehla kadi vekhi nahi. Here's an opportunity jahan assi oh jehdi Republican Democrats assi ਉਹਦੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ just kind of keep that same cycle, ਜਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੋਈ ਸਮਾਜ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੋਈ ਨਵੀਂ ਰੂਪ, ਕੋਈ ਨਵੀਂ ਚੀਜ਼ ਅਸੀਂ ਲਿਆ ਸਕਦੇ। And this is an opportunity that we have to present a new vision, an inclusive vision that brings forward California into the 21st century and beyond. And these were the types of conversations that we were trying to also have at a local level, wherever we could actually have those facilitate those conversations. So at least in Fresno, California, we had long been working with a number of different organizations, especially the indigenous communities of Oaxaca and Guerrero. When I was growing up, most of my friends, almost all of them, actually their parents worked in the fields. It was just a different California at the time. And most of our, those that also worked in the fields tended to be from Armenia, from the Portuguese Azores, or if they were from Mexico, overwhelmingly from Jalisco and Michoacan at that time. Today, the actually farm working community has very much changed, many times even in the fields here in Sutter County and beyond. A lot of the communities that most work in the field are actually coming from Oaxaca and Guerrero. And especially the community from Oaxaca, there has long been sort of a caste system within Mexico, to which Demori was alluding to, in terms of those that had more European blood versus those that may have had more indigenous blood. And those from the kind of mountainous regions of South Mexico. When we were sharing this was an opportunity where the communities came right away together. And so, as Demori shared, in Fresno, we were proud to be the first city in California to really kind of advance civil rights, both in terms of recognizing caste and also talking about indigeneity for the first time, and especially as our farm working community very quickly is actually increasing in terms of those communities from Guerrero and Michoacan and Oaxaca. It's an opportunity for us to meet new folks, talk to new communities. Like I said, we had Portuguese Azores communities that were with us that day. We had Armenian folks that very much sort of understood this issue. When we were working with our local city council members, one of the champions was a person whose roots are from Iranian Christian background. And he very much understood in Iran how those are sort of from Christian background are sometimes treated different by the Muslim majority in Iran. And so it was something that he kind of very much understood that as California and as the United States becomes more diverse, we're going to have to also understand internal nuances. We can't just see all communities as in a blanket terms. And these were sort of the powerful conversations we're having.
We worked with many students across the Cal State system because they were seeing significant discrimination across the Cal States and the UCs. And those students worked with many different organizers, and they got cast as a protected category in the Cal State system. And UC Davis, and we have a wonderful professor here from UC Davis, became one of the first universities to add caste as a protected category. So this, alongside some of the work that Amar Shergill led in the Democratic Party, where the Democratic Party added caste as a protected category to its bylaws, inspired and informed Senator Aisha Wahab's decision to make this one of her first centerpiece legislations of her first year in office. And she reached out to Amar, and then they got to us. And then we brought in the UN Rapporteur on Racism and Discrimination, and we pulled together a series of lawyers to then begin writing this bill. And it was a tremendous historical responsibility to do that work, because we knew that much of the law, that what we would write here, would go on to define this conversation across the country.
Attorneys like me and others, we came together with Tenmordi, with Senator Wahab, and we had this discussion. If that's the state of the law, let's just change the law. And it's not unique. As an attorney, as a trial lawyer, I'm vice president of the Capital City Trial Lawyers Association. We routinely look at judicial findings across the state, and we say, hey, this judge was wrong, or this thing seems clear, let's write the law, let's fix it, so everybody in California knows what the law is on this issue. Let's protect these people because it's not really clear. So because of that, with Senator Wahab and with Tenmordi and others, this bill was written to clarify the law. So we don't have to wait 5 years for a case to go to the Supreme Court, and maybe we win, maybe we lose, maybe the judge says, I don't really know what caste is, and nobody's ever talked to me about this issue. Let's just write the law, we'll fix it. So that's what we did. and you've heard from other speakers today, that this was a unique bill. It had Democratic support, Republican support, interfaith support. We had support from labor, the largest labor organizations in the nation. It was a bill unlike I have ever worked on. I've worked on a few. And it had consensus support, really not much opposition, until we got to the governor's desk. But here's why I want to tell you why we actually won this issue. Along the way, what happened? Along the way, we got the American Bar Association to say caste discrimination should be protected. This law should be written not only in California, everywhere in the nation. This is a good law. Along the way, we got the API Bar Associations, Asian Law Caucus. We got black bars. We got here in the Sacramento, we got a coalition of bar organizations. So what happens is an issue that nobody was talking about, that really was just ignored. Every attorney, certainly every leader in bar organizations, and absolutely judges, right? I wrote an op-ed that went in our local magazine. Every attorney, every judge certainly read that article. And what we developed is a consensus. There now does not exist one attorney in California who has not read this, who has not seen it, who sort of knows. When this case now comes in front of a judge, that judge will say, oh yeah, I know about this stuff. I've seen the bar, everybody knows this, we're on board with this. Right? Every plaintiff's attorney that takes one of these cases, somebody new comes into their office and says, oh yeah, I know what the issue is on caste. I know this is clear, the bar, everybody agrees with it. Everybody now agrees that caste is protected in California, even though the bill didn't pass. And why do they say that? They say that because we said that. It is protected under the law, but we're going to make it clear. Even the most ardent opponents of this bill, even the right-wing Hindutva folks that were dead set against this bill, even they were forced to come back to us at the end and say, the California Constitution, as it is currently written, protects caste. And that argument was made so strong that the governor, even when saying, I don't support this bill, wrote in his statement to the world, the California Constitution currently protects caste. So when I say, yeah, we didn't get this bill, we won this issue, and that is clear, and that's the law in California, and that's the message we need to carry forward. Yes, we will come back and we will pass this bill, maybe this time, maybe with another governor, but we won this.
ਸਿੱਖ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਸੈਂਟਰ ਯੂਬਾ ਸਿਟੀ ਵਿਖੇ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਇੱਕ ਸੈਮੀਨਾਰ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਗਿਆ ਨਾ ਕਿ ਸਿਰਫ ਇਕੁਆਲਿਟੀ ਉੱਤੇ ਬਟ ਜੋ ਰੀਸੈਂਟ ਚਰਚਾ ਬਿੱਲ SB 403 ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਕੈਲੀਫੋਰਨੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਹਿ ਲਓ ਸੰਘਰਸ਼ ਲੜਿਆ ਗਿਆ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜੇ ਹੋਏ ਹਨ ਨੈਨਦੀਪ ਸਿੰਘ ਫਾਊਂਡਰ ਆਫ ਜਕਾਰਾ ਮੂਵਮੈਂਟ ਜਕਾਰਾ ਨੂੰ ਕੌਣ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਾਣਦਾ ਨੈਨਦੀਪ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਲਗਾਤਾਰ ਸਾਡੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਤੇ ਵੀ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਯੂ ਸੋ ਐਕਟਿਵ ਇਨ ਦਿਸ ਸਪੇਸ when it comes to fighting for civil rights ਇਸ ਬਿੱਲ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ SB 403 ਲੜਾਈ ਕਾਸਟ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਕਾਸਟ ਡਿਸਕ੍ਰਿਮੀਨੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਖਿਲਾਫ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਲੜੀ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਸੀ unfortunately Governor Gavin Newsom vetoed it despite the overwhelming success that this bill had in the Senate and the Assembly in the state. You made some remarks about sociology versus theology ਕਿ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਿੱਖ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਪਾਈ ਜਾਂਦੀਆਂ I would love to hear some comments of ਕਿ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਕਰਨ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਹੈਗੀ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜੋ ਕਿ ਇੱਥੇ ਵਸਦੇ ਹੈ ਸਾਡੇ ਕਿੰਨੇ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਵੰਡ ਕੇ ਰੱਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ before we can advocate on behalf of others who are victims of caste discrimination.
Sure, thank you so much Aashmeeta ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਾਰੀ JUS ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਨੂੰ ਸੋ ਐਕਚੁਅਲੀ ਇੱਕ ਵਿਦਵਾਨ ਨੇ ਸਵਾਲ ਪੁੱਛਿਆ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਨੈਨਦੀਪ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਫਰਕ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਡਿਫਰੈਂਸ ਬਿਟਵੀਨ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬਾਂ ਨੇ ਕੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਐਕਚੁਅਲ ਪ੍ਰੈਕਟਿਸਿਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ ਫਰਕ ਕਿਉਂ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਕਿੱਥੋਂ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਇਹਦੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਸਵਾਲ ਪੁੱਛੇ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਇਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਐਟ ਲੀਸਟ ਹਾਊ ਆਈ ਥਿੰਕ ਆਫ ਇਟ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਥੀਓਲੋਜੀ ਉਹ ਤਾਂ ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਸਪਸ਼ਟ ਹੈ ਇਟਸ ਵੈਰੀ ਕਲੀਅਰ ਮਤਲਬ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੀ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੀ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਤੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਸਿਧਾਂਤ ਕੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਤੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਕੀ ਲਿਖਿਆ ਗਿਆ but why कि society ਵੱਲੋਂ ਮਤਲਬ ਉਹ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਿਉਂ ਉਸ ਚੀਜ਼ ਕਿਉਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ as to use the word kind of sociologically what is the difference in ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿੰਨਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ at least in kind of like ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਾਤ ਪਾਤ ਦੀ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਮਨੂ ਸਮ੍ਰਿਤੀਜ਼ ਦੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਮਤਲਬ ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਐਕਸਪਲੇਨੇਸ਼ਨ ਵੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਹੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਪਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਹਿ ਸਕਦੇ ਐਟਲੀਸਟ ਆਈ ਕੈਨ ਸੇ ਇਨ ਲਾਈਕ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਸਿੱਖ ਸੋਸਾਇਟੀ ਉਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੀ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ it doesn't mean anything to the kids and that's not their experiences actually kind of thodiya hor it's almost more tribes as opposed to ਜਿਵੇਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਹਿ ਸਕਦੇ kind of like a hierarchy ਤਾਂ ਹੈਗਾ ਹੀ ਮੈਂ ਵੀ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ it's clear ਕਿ actually and we use words like it's a social apartheid but I guess ਉਹ ਵੀ ਫਰਕ ਹੈ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਪਿਛਲੇ 10-15 ਸਾਲ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਸ ਸਮੇਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ we've been talking about ਹਲੀਮੀ ਰਾਜ ਬੇਗਮਪੁਰਾ we work with the Ravdasiya communities we work with all sort of different communities ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਫਰਕ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਗਿਆ ਕਿ ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ kind of ਉੱਚੇ ਜਾਤ ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਮਝਦੇ they fight in sick spaces the most but ਉਹਦੀ ਲੜਾਈ ਕੋਈ ਅੰਤ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂ if I try to talk to Irish or Italians who's better there's no answer but wash out the Irish and Italian when a black person comes in how quickly they'll turn on them and mere ਕਹਿਣ ਦੀ ਭਾਵ ਇਹ ਹੈ is actually the real kind of understanding of this is actually have to do with our Dalit communities and focusing actually on how we lift that up to live the vision of Guru Nanak. And so I think ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ we're trying to center it. If I'm honest with you, the women in our community understand it like this because they experience it, they live it, they feel it. ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਮੁੰਡੇ ਆ they're kind of slower. We're trying to bring them wholly along, but they also know that they have lots of privileges and they don't want to surrender those privileges. And so, is struggle the which, it's not going to be everyone at once, but I am, if either we're going to bring everyone or we're going to lose people. And I don't mind losing people that don't want to come along, but my fear is the Sabni community because we don't talk to our youth at all. We're going to lose people because we don't even talk to them. So it shows like JUS Punjabi, it's like kind of seminars like this, and it's these constant conversations that we're hoping you're having in your households, in your SSAs, in your JMCs, at your gurdware, that are going to actually help bring us all together.
Very well said. It starts at the local level. Once again, Nandeep Singh from Jakara Movement. Nandeep, wonderful seminar. Great seeing you as always. We'll see you around. I want to turn the conversation now to the individual who is the founder of a organization called Equality Labs. Jadoo he SB 403 da bill ਅੱਗੇ ਵਧਿਆ ਇਹਦੀ ਬੈਕਗਰਾਉਂਡ ਰਿਸਰਚ ਇਹਦੀ ਬੈਕਗਰਾਉਂਡ ਡੇਟਾ ਸੈਟ ਇਸ ਸੰਸਥਾ ਤੋਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਵਾਈਡ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਵੀ ਹੈਵ ਜੁਆਇਨਿੰਗ ਅਸ ਨਾਓ ਦ ਫਾਊਂਡਰ ਆਫ ਇਕੁਆਲਿਟੀ ਲੈਬਸ ਮਿਸ
Tanmori Sandarajan.
Tanmori Sandarajan. I promise you I practiced your name 10 times. It is a beautiful name. Tanmori, you have been such a staunch advocate of this bill, of the rights of various communities. I don't want to refer to them as Dalit or lower caste or upper caste because that's the exact kind of oppression we are trying to fight here. You laid it out beautifully. What actually took place when this bill, which had overwhelming support in the Senate and the Assembly, reached Governor Newsom's desks. You explained to us the process by which he led that veto effort, the process by which that bill was vetoed. I would love for you to recap that for our viewers, exactly what took place that led Governor Gavin Newsom, despite the overwhelming information, data, pressure, and support that this bill had behind it, to still veto it.
Well, I think what's really important for viewers to understand is that this bill did not lose because of a lack of strategy. This bill didn't lose because of a lack of hundreds of thousands of people weighing in on this issue, or even the majority of multiple houses. It lost because of political consideration. And I think we still have questions. We really need to hear from Governor Newsom about what exactly happened, because what we have heard on social media from donors to the Democratic National Party was that there was a meeting in Chicago at the Biden-Harris Victory Fund, and that meeting was instigated by a Hindu nationalist Democratic bundler named Ramesh Kapoor, who emailed Kamala Harris and asked him, can you connect me to Newsom? And then he and another donor, who is part of our opposition, Ajay Butaria, met with Governor Newsom to make the case against SB 403. And certainly every community is allowed to make their case for and against this bill. But I think what was particularly troubling, which is why I have questions, I want to know more about the meeting, I want to know more about what was discussed there, was that they not only said that caste didn't exist, they also said there was no legal justification for it. Neither of them are lawyers, by the way. They're just fundraisers for the Democratic Party. But also they said, if you vote for this bill, you will turn off the South Asian community, and we might not support you in your presidential ambitions. So that is a direct threat that they were making in the context of this. And then after that conversation, Governor Newsom gave his personal email to Ramesh Kapoor, and they corresponded. And 2 hours before the veto, alleged by these donors themselves in their own social media posts, they said, Governor Newsom wrote back saying, I'm going to veto this bill, watch my back. So I can't say, I'm not part of that meeting. And again, Governor Newsom did not meet with any Dalit individuals. So I cannot say what he learned. He didn't meet directly with any of the legal associations that also supported this bill. So the questions that I have is I want to know what happened in that meeting. I want to know what in Governor Newsom's consideration outweighed the American Bar Association, the Asian Law Caucus, the National Asian Pacific Bar Association, and the South Asian Bar Association, that two Democratic donors who have no legal experience and who do not work in any realm of caste equity or civil rights could say that could overturn legal expertise, scholarly expertise, and the majorities that got this to his desk. And this is something that, we hope to hear more from the governor about, and I hope that we can hear and get more factual information about this. But it sounds really shocking. And I think this is why people are so upset, because it wasn't like there wasn't evidence, it wasn't like there wasn't data, it wasn't like there weren't majorities and hundreds of thousands of Californian lives that were on the line. And so it is something that I think we have to look at, that political consideration and money could have overturned the need to actually have the state fulfill its civil rights and labor obligations to vulnerable, oppressed communities like ourselves.
Then, Mozi, you spoke a lot about this coalition, as well as the other panelists that were featured in today's seminar. The large role that women, in particular, previously non-political figures, non-advocating, individuals played in this fight. Can you say a couple of quick words about not just the role that women played, what impact they had in this fight, and how you feel that moving forward in similar struggles, similar campaigns, women can step up and play a role in greater numbers?
Well, I think it was not accidental that we had so many women leaders a part of it. Again, Senator Aisha Wahab is herself a very strong feminist. She's the first Afghan and Muslim in the California legislature. Her entire office is majority women. And of course, as one of the sponsors, we actually made sure to include many different women leaders from our community at all different walks of life, at all different levels of political experience. So you had very strong, experienced Sikh feminists, like Kiran Kaur of the Sikh American Legal Defense Fund, Nikki from the Sikh Coalition. But we also had folks that had never organized before, people like Renu Singh, who had never worked on a state bill, who worked to organize many, many women from many parts of the state, from many gurdwaras. And we had folks like, Dr. Promila, who was one of the founders of Doctors for Caste Equity. We had, folks from the Caste Equity Legal Task Force, which did historic work to mobilize legal associations. And that included Tarina Mann, who is the head of the South Asian Bar Association, Tanuja Gupta, who was a Google whistleblower, and Lakshmi Gopal, and many, many others. And the presence of so many women just inspired even more women to come forward. And one of the stories that, Renu talked about, which still really moved me, is that there were grandmothers that came. Grandmothers whose only realities had been their home life. And they said this one thing, we thought all of our lives was focused on making rotis. We never thought that we would actually meet with very powerful people. And some of them didn't even speak English, but they knew that they wanted to be free. So that first word that they spoke in English was yes on SB 403. And if they couldn't even say it, they would point to their shirt that said yes on SB 403. So that just more and more women brought more and more women. And what that tells us is all of our movements, for them to be strong, need to have all of us at the table and to have grandmothers and babies. And Renu, again, was a big inspiration for me because she organized while pregnant. She organized until she was 7 months pregnant. And for her to do whole days of advocacy, to go door to door, to drive from Gurdwara to Gurdwara with Dr. Nirmal, it was inspirational.
You guys are the true inspiration. We wish you the best of luck. You don't need luck. You already have all of the willpower and strategy behind it. Once again, then Mozi Sundarajam, I hope I got it close, founder of Equality Labs, doing fantastic work. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
Of course. And I also just want to give a shout out to all of the organizations that were part of the California Coalition for Caste Equity. We had over 250 organizations, and especially the Ravadasya leaders across the state, because they were the backbone of this movement. And so, it's just an honor to be here and to know the bill may have come to a particular position, but where we are as a movement is we're just getting started.
You're just getting started. Thank you so much. ਸਿੱਖ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਸੈਂਟਰ ਯੂਨੀਵਰਸਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਸੈਮੀਨਾਰ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਗਿਆ। ਉਸ ਸੈਮੀਨਾਰ ਦੇ ਵੱਖ-ਵੱਖ ਸਪੀਕਰਸ ਪੈਨਲਿਸਟ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਾ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ। ਹੁਣ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜੇ ਹਨ ਅਮਰ ਸ਼ੇਰਗਿਲ ਜੀ। You regularly join our program. We've been covering this bill, the fight for this specific cause, for weeks now, for months now. Amarji, jadon eh bill no veto kita gaya, we did a follow-up program on the disappointment felt by the various members of the coalition that had come together from all, different corners of the political and social landscape. You made a point today that even though Governor Gavin Newsom vetoed the bill, despite the overwhelming support in the Senate and the Assembly, that it's not a defeat. Can you tell us a little bit about why not?
Sure. ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਹੈਡਲਾਈਨ ਤੋਂ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਆ ਜਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ WhatsApp ਦੇਖਦੇ ਆ ਤੇ ਸਿਰਫ ਉਹੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸੋਚੋਗੇ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਹਾਰ ਗਏ, ਮਤਲਬ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਲੈਜਿਸਲੇਸ਼ਨ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕੀਤਾ ਸੀਗਾ, ਉਹ ਗਵਰਨਰ ਨੇ ਸਾਈਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤਾ, ਮਤਲਬ ਅਸੀਂ ਹਾਰ ਗਏ. But the truth is that if you look at the entire path of the bill, this bill is a huge win, even though it didn't get passed. And ਹੁਣ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਹੋਇਆ? The reason for that is ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕੀਤਾ, ਉਦੋਂ ਜੇ ਕੋਈ ਵਕੀਲ ਜਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਜੱਜ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਇਸ਼ੂ ਦੇਖਣਾ, ਉਹਨੇ ਉਸ ਵੇਲੇ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਨਾ ਕਨਸਟੀਟਿਊਸ਼ਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਾਸਟ ਲਿਖਿਆ ਆ, ਨਾ ਆਪਣੇ ਲੈਜਿਸਲੇਸ਼ਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਾਸਟ ਲਿਖਿਆ ਆ, ਸੋ ਮਤਲਬ ਕਿ ਕਾਸਟ ਡਿਸਕ੍ਰਿਮੀਨੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੀ ਕੋਈ ਪ੍ਰੋਟੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂ ਗੀ ਕੈਲੀਫੋਰਨੀਆ ਵਿੱਚ. So the law was to correct that, to specifically put it in the legislation. But what we also did is in this year-long battle, ਅਸੀਂ education ਕੀਤੀ ਆਪਣੇ legal community ਨੂੰ, ਆਪਣੇ ਜੱਜਾਂ ਨੂੰ, ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਕਿ caste discrimination ਕੀ ਆ, ਕੈਲੀਫੋਰਨੀਆ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ. And because of that, we had support for this issue from the American Bar Association. They didn't just say California should pass this bill. They said every jurisdiction in the United States should ban caste discrimination. And the Asian Law Caucus and the Black Caucus and really every legal leader in the country supported the issue that caste discrimination should be banned. And even the opponents of this bill, right? The Hindutva leaders who said that we do not want caste discrimination in this bill, we do not think that caste discrimination even happens in California, at the end they had to admit, because our advocacy was so strong, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮੰਨਣਾ ਪਿਆ that the California Constitution as it is written today bans caste discrimination. ਤੇ ਗਵਰਨਰ ਨੂਸਮ ਜਦੋਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਚਿੱਠੀ ਲਿਖੀ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਇਹ ਬਿੱਲ ਤੇ ਸਾਈਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਾਉਣਾ, ਉਹ ਵੀ ਮਜਬੂਰ ਸੀਗੇ ਕਿ ਉਸ ਚਿੱਠੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਲਿਖਿਆ that caste discrimination is banned in California as the California Constitution is currently written. So ਹੁਣ ਗਾਂ ਕੀ ਹੋਣਾ? ਜਦੋਂ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਇਸ਼ੂ ਹੁਣ ਪੇਸ਼ ਹੋਣਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਜੱਜ ਦੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ, the judge is going to look at the research. He's going to look at what the governor said. He's going to look at the American Bar Association, the Asian Law Caucus, and all these legal organizations. ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੇ decision ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਪਾਉਣਾ that there is a legal consensus that the California Constitution covers caste discrimination as a component of ancestry, religion and race, and that caste discrimination is banned in California. Now, ਉਹਨੇ ਇਹ ਸ਼ਾਇਦ 1 ਸਾਲ ਜਾਂ 2 ਸਾਲ ਜਾਂ 3 ਸਾਲ ਲੱਗ ਜਾਊਗੇ to get it to the Supreme Court. But that is going to happen now. We have won this issue, and we will also bring this bill back, maybe with a different governor. So we are on the path to victory, and when it comes to this issue, we've already won.
Amarji, you know, a lot of this fight seems to be about a mindset thing, right? And maybe you guys have encountered this a lot, people saying that, especially on the opposition, that ਇਹ issue ਤਾਂ ਅਗਰ ਕਦੀ exist ਵੀ ਕਰਦਾ ਸੀ, ਇਹ ਤਾਂ India ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ issue exist ਕਰਦਾ, ਇਹ ਇੱਥੇ ਨਹੀਂ exist ਕਰਦਾ, right? When we talk about mindset, can you give us in a few words an example of how this issue exists, not just here today, but ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਸਿੱਖ community ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਇਸੇ ਚੀਜ਼ ਦਾ ਪ੍ਰਚਾਰ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ? Maybe sometimes we don't even realize that we're doing it, but we are just as guilty of it, of doing it amongst ourselves, as we see, you know, in forms of discrimination from the outside.
Sure. कि ये legislation बारे ਅਸੀਂ सोचते हैं कि this is an issue of discrimination at work, ਜਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ colleges ਵਿੱਚ, but it's not just that. We know as a community that jat is a problem in our gurdwara, in our homes, in our communities, in our organizations. Some organizations have, you know, leadership from one community. Some organizations have leadership from another community. So it's important that in Sikh organizations we have this discussion, and we don't just wait for it to come up, shayad koi gal ho jayegi, shayad nahi. We need to make an affirmative decision. Let's discuss caste, let's discuss how it's affecting our organization, and let's discuss how we're going to get rid of it. And it's only with these discussions that we can truly represent jo Guruji ne sanu sikhaya, that we must have equality for all people.
Well, very well said. The change has to start at home. Thank you so much, Amar Singh Shergilji, as always, a former executive chairman of the Democratic Party in California. But I really like what you said, that you work with both aisles, because this effort seems something that was above just one party. It's a coalition. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
ਸੋ ਇਸੇ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਸ SB 403 ਦੀ ਬਿੱਲ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਂਝੇ ਕਰਦੇ ਰਹਾਂਗੇ, ਬਟ ਅੱਜ ਜੋ ਸੈਮੀਨਾਰ ਇੱਥੇ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਗਿਆ ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਜੋ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਡਿਸਕਸ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਗਈਆਂ, ਜੋ ਸਪੀਕਰਸ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਂਝੇ ਕੀਤੇ, ਅਗਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਕੁਐਸਚਨਸ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਰੱਖਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਲਿਖ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ info@jusbroadcasting.com, aashmeeta@jusbroadcasting.com। ਹੁਣ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਦਿਓ ਇਜਾਜ਼ਤ। ਸਤਿ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ।